morning everyone, and welcome back to Big OGGIE World. So it's Easter holidays, which means nothing to you because this could go out at any time, but what I'm saying is that we're all at home, and so treats and snacks go flying out of cupboards. So I'm going to make today a tea loaf and it's a bit different because it's going to be done in the slow cooker. And at the moment, we are all loving our slow cookers because of the cost of the electricity and stuff. A slow cooker is a brilliant way of putting something together. It usually takes moments to put together. It takes a long time to cook, but at the end of the day, you have something that's really lovely, that's taken you sort of no time at all, and people will think you've been slaving all day. Now, I've not done a cake in the slow cooker, I'll be honest. But I have got this fantastic book, which we have been working some of the recipes from, and it's the Good Food Ultimate Slow Cooker Recipe Book. And quite honestly, we've never had a recipe from the Good Food people that has failed. So I'm completely trusting of this recipe. And it's an apple and spiced tea loaf. Now there is a tea loaf already, or actually there's probably a couple of tea loaves already on the channel, which you can go back and look at. And they've all worked absolutely brilliantly. Like I said, this one's going to go in the slow cooker. So what you need, I've had to use my big slow cooker today, not the normal small one, because you need a 2-pound loaf tin, which you're going to grease or add a greasy liner in. So that's what I've done. And then what you need to do is put your slow cooker on high and preheat it. So just while you're getting all stuff together and whatever, stick your slow cooker on, stick it on high, put a saucer or something in the bottom so that your loaf tin is not sat directly above the heat source, if that makes sense, because you don't want the bottom to cook before the top, and if you sit it on something then the heat sort of circulates, which is exactly what you want. So nothing complicated about this. We're going to start off with our butter and we're going to cream it together with our sugar as per normal. So I'll get on and do that and I'll be back. Now once you've creamed your sugar and butter together, you're going to add 3 large eggs. Don't worry about the measurements, John will put it all down below as he usually does. But add them one at a time and really beat them in the middle, in between obviously. So I'm going to crack each one into a cup first because we don't want any shells. And then just give them a little mix up. Which quite honestly doesn't really make much difference because you're going to beat the hell out of it, but makes me feel a bit more efficient. I'll be back. Okay, so the eggs are in. Now, when you are doing that, if your mixture looks like it's splitting, don't panic. Especially the last egg, it does tend to sort of split the mix. But if you just keep beating, it will come back together. Obviously, make sure you scrape the sides down because otherwise you're not going to get all your mix in properly. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take an apple and we're going to peel it, but we only need half at this point. So I'm going to peel and then we will grate half of the apple and that goes in, but whilst that's doing, the other half needs to just sit for a bit. So I'm going to just chop it in half, and that bit I'm going to put face down in some lemon juice just to stop it going brown while I do the other. Okay, so this half of the apple we are going to grate. It doesn't really matter what sort of thickness or coarseness you grate it on, just make sure that you grate it together. And obviously, depending on the size of your apple, is going to depend on how much apple you've got. Then you're going to take your vine fruits. I'm just using sultanas, but you can use whichever fruits you want. You can mix them up a bit if you prefer. Okay, so add your apple to your vine fruits, whichever ones you want, with a teaspoon of vanilla. I'm using paste, but you can use extract. And your ground almonds. Give that a little zhoosh together. And then you're going to take your plain flour along with your baking powder and your spices. So there's a teaspoon of cinnamon and half a teaspoon of nutmeg in there. Put those in. Add a pinch of salt, which I'm not going to do because I'm using salted butter. So I'm not going to add any more salt to that. Mix that up a little bit. And then we're going to mix our flour mixture together with our fruit mixture. And it's all going in with our creamed butter and eggs. Now we're going to combine that. And once it's nicely combined, it goes into our loaf tin. Now, once you've got it in your tin, level it as best you can. And then we're going to take the other half of the apple, again, peel it, but this one we're going to thinly slice. And once we've thinly sliced it, we're going to lay slices across the top of our cake batter. Now you do need to sort of push them in slightly, but you don't need to bury them. And that's just going to give us a nice little topping. So now, once you've got your apple on the top of your tin like that, you're going to need a splash of either orange juice or apple juice, and you need to brush the tops of those apples with that juice because you don't want your apples to go brown before they cook. Don't go too overpowering, otherwise you're going to have puddles of the juice, but just brush them slightly like that. Then we're going to take an extra teaspoon of our sugar and kind of sprinkle a bit of that over as well. Now it's not going to give you a crunch because there's only light muscovado, but it will give you a nice sort of caramelly topping taste. There we go. So that's the cake done. That now goes into your slow cooker, as I said, on top of a trivet of some kind, be it a saucer or something else, and it's going to cook on high for between 2.5 and 3.5 hours. Now, I know that there's quite a large sort of sway in that, but it really depends on how hot your slow cooker is when it starts, how hot your slow cooker cooks generally, and if you can leave that alone and not take the lid off, because that is vital. So I would look at it through the top at about 2.5 hours, and if it still looks very cakey, don't open it. Leave it for another half an hour and then perhaps test it with a cake skewer at 3 hours and then half an hour after that. What you want at the end is that your cake is not going to be risen massively because it's a tea loaf, so it's not going to be like a sponge, but you need to be able to take your skewer out and it be clean. So I'm going to put mine in and we'll be back in a few hours. So it has been 2.5 hours and I'm going to check my cake. It smells wonderful. Again, one of them times when smelly vision would be good. Take a skewer. This is a proper cake skewer. Fancy. and stick it in the middle of your cake. And that is completely clean. So my cake is cooked. Obviously people are using slow cookers because they are a lot more economical than a big oven. So it's taken 2.5 hours in the slow cooker, but when you think a slow cooker operates on the same sort of power wattage as probably a light bulb or something similar to that, it's going to save you a massive amount of electric. And why would you heat a great big oven for an hour or so to cook a cake when you can stick it in a slow cooker and go about your day and not worry about it overcooking? Now, I will get a picture taken because I can't move this at the minute, it's really hot, but the top of the cake is browned, just exactly the same as it would be as if you got it out of a normal oven. So it's not like it's going to come up white and wet, because it definitely isn't. It's risen to perfection, which I was a bit surprised actually, because I wasn't expecting it to rise very far. As I said earlier, it's a tea loaf, not a sponge cake. So that's that. The only thing left to do now is I need to get it out of here, but it needs to be left to cool in the tin. So don't try and get it out of your tin. Let it cool in the tin and it'll be ready for slicing. I would suggest, well, us personally, we will be eating it with a little bit of butter on, just like you would with a tea loaf. But because it's been cooked in a slow cooker, it's not going to be dried out as if you put something in the oven and overdid it in the oven. It would dry. In the slow cooker, because it's cooked, well, I guess John said it's almost steamed, and I guess it is in some ways, but there's no liquid in this slow cooker. There's no condensation or anything in the slow cooker, so you don't even need to wash that. That's a bargain too. I don't expect this to be dry in any way, shape or form. So I hope you enjoyed that. That's my first footsteps into cooking cakes in slow cooker. Like I said, complete success. And actually what's been really good is it's been on for 2.5 hours and I've cracked on and done some spring cleaning. So, you know, that's got to be a win-win in my sort of book. So, hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know if you do it. Let me know also if you do use your slow cooker for things like baking. I saw a recipe somewhere for bread, for making bread in the slow cooker. Not sure about that one, but I will go and try and find it because I think that might be interesting. And we did make some bready type. John made some hot cross buns the other day and they came out great, because we're not great bread makers in this house, but they were delicious. And I think I might sort of go a bit further down that road, although I am not going back to sourdough. We tried sourdough and it was a disaster, so I'm not going that way. But anyway, if you subscribe, thanks very much. If you haven't, please do give us a thumbs up if you like this, and we will see you all again really soon. Bye for now.